So here's the deal, I am currently out here in Portland, Oregon. Why am I here in Portland, Oregon? Well, because I have the opportunity to drive the all-new 2025 Buick Enclave. I'll be driving the ST over here, the Sport Touring trim, as well as the Avenir. I'll be reporting to you today in this video what my thoughts are on the first drive. All right, so first off, currently I am in the 2025 Buick Enclave Avenir, which is the top of the 3 trim levels that this new Enclave is available. And they're really trying to simplify the lineup, and even amongst these 3 trim levels, there's not really a ton of choices. You kind of get what you get with the, with a few options available. Great for dealerships, of course, and I think it really simplifies it for, the consumer like yourself. Currently, you can see I'm doing a lot of talking with my hands while I'm in the driver's seat, and that is because I am in the first vehicle that Buick has ever offered the Super Cruise semi-autonomous driving system. They are saying that they're going to have up to 750,000 miles of highways that the Super Cruise is available on by the end of 2025. And we're not only talking freeways, we're talking what we're currently on right now, which is like mountainous, twisty, turny, 2-lane roads. So very impressed by that aspect. The Super Cruise being available on all 3 trim levels. By the way, the 3 trim levels are the preferred. That is your entry trim level. You have the ST, which stands for Sport Touring, and then of course you have what we're in here now, which is the Avenir. I'll be doing some walk-arounds and videos on this so I can really show you the differences between those. But currently in the Avenir, of course, one of the things I've noticed is it does have a bit different tuned suspension than what we're seeing in the preferred version as well as in the ST version. So ST again being standing for Sport Touring. When we get to that, I will talk about how it handles. But currently, right now, this vehicle has the CDC suspension, not dispension, which is continuous dampening control. And basically, what we're finding is on some of these roads, it's twisty, it's turny, but there's been a lot of bumps out here. And the first thing I can speak to about this new Enclave is how well it's really handled those. As you've come to expect in any kind of Buick line, especially since the introduction of the Enclave, is a plush ride. The long wheelbase, this now vehicle being longer, wider, and taller than the previous generation, which was already quite a large vehicle, lends itself to obviously that more comfortable ride in conjunction with the suspension. The vehicle itself that we're in, of course, is 7 passengers, so it is a 3-row vehicle. Lots of room for your passengers in this, of course, especially if you're not wanting to go up to, and our Super Cruise is turning off here, especially if you're not wanting to go up to, a Yukon or a Tahoe or something that big. This is definitely going to suit many families like myself. I've got 3 children with my wife, we got 2 dogs, and if we weren't pulling a trailer, I think this would do just fine. Speaking of towing, you do have the option for the tow package, which will give you up to 5,000 pounds of towing, which is very capable for a vehicle like this. So if you're wanting to pull your watercraft or a small trailer of some sort, it can most certainly do that. And speaking of towing and power, underneath the hood of this is a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder turbo, producing 328 horsepower, 326 pound-feet of torque. Peppy enough. Of course, they've gone away from that 6-cylinder that I know many of you have liked and are used to. But I do feel that the 2.5 liter definitely gets the job done. It's peppy enough if you're trying to, pass somebody or to accelerate onto the highway, whatever it might be. What I will say is that the power of this is interesting because we do notice a bit of a turbo noise. That's something you might not be familiar with if you've had the V6 version of the Enclave and you've never driven any sort of a truck with a turbo. So there's a little bit of a whistle. I'm going to see how it is on the ST when we drive that. I'll show you the sound. Just because we might have a particular overly noisy one in the version we have. These are, you got to remember, the vehicles that we do drive are sometimes pre-production almost vehicles. They were out, but they were very early in production, and so some things haven't really been finely tuned the way that they would for the vehicles that you as the consumer would get. But no, aside from that, the 2.5 liter I'm finding to be more than capable, especially for, again, what the size of this vehicle is. The handling, of course, I mean, again, it's a bigger vehicle. You're going to get that bit of a body roll feel. I mean, it's an SUV, right? We're not talking about a small, compact car that's traveling through here, but it's planted enough. It's wide enough. And again, the weight of this vehicle, I do really like. Now, when we're comparing this drive, I have had the opportunity and fortunate opportunity to not only drive, of course, what we're driving right now in the Enclave, but it's kind of brother and sister vehicles in the Chevrolet Traverse and the GMC Acadia. Now, I do notice this to be a more plush ride and a more quiet ride. There's a couple reasons for that. We have the active noise cancellation here through the Bose stereo system. By the way, you get 18 speakers, I believe? 16 speaker. I got Eddie here beside me, Eddie X. 16 speaker Bose stereo system, active noise cancellation that is in this vehicle. Not only that, but they have the double laminate glass in both the driver and passenger side and in the front window as well. So both of those things combined are giving you what we're, again, if you've been familiar with the Buick brand, it's always been something that they've strived for is the ride quality, which I'm noticing, and of course the quietness. Those are two things I know is slightly different. And again, you are paying a bit more for this. We're in about the $60,000 US dollar. Sorry for my Canadian friends. I'll try and put the text on what the Canadian dollar is, but $60,000 US for the Avenir trim level. Of course, you know, it depends on what you're getting. There's a couple things you can option for. The Super Cruise that we are driving with right now is an option in the Avenir. So it's not a standard feature, which I kind of like that because I know some of you might not want that feature. So not to be forced to have to buy it is a great thing. For those of you who do want it, there's a little bit of a bonus. I know many of you might lease a vehicle for only 3 or 4 years. So there is a bonus because the, you've probably heard, but with Super Cruise, you have to have a subscription in order for it to work. The nice thing is it is built into the price of getting the Super Cruise package, and that will allow you to have 3 years of the Super Cruise for free. So it really allows you to see if it's something you're going to use. If you tend to keep the vehicle and you really like the Super Cruise, then you can opt for, of course, either a monthly or a long-term subscription. If you don't, you don't. Or if you've been trading it in after, say, a 3-year lease, oh well. We also have the backup, the rear view camera mirror in this as well. Again, I'll be doing a walkthrough of this vehicle to show you more of the specifications as we're really focusing on the ride today. But again, what I'll say, quietness, the power is adequate. Again, I wouldn't say this is a race car by any means, but I don't believe that this is the customer that obviously they're after. The sport touring, there's a sport mode in this. There's different drive modes in this, which we have noticed to give it a little bit different, you know, control. I didn't mention, but this does have an 8-speed automatic transmission to pair up with that 2.5 liter. Oh, as a heads up, what I did want to talk about earlier, telling us to slow down here, is that the I just got distracted by a construction worker yelling at me basically to slow down. And so what I did learn though is obviously this has a 2.5 liter. I did ask at one of the last meetings I was at that, you know, this 2.5 liter is being used in the Traverse. It's also being used, of course, in the Acadia and in this vehicle. And I thought, okay, well, why aren't we using the 2.7 liter that they're using in the truck, which is a very capable motor, lots of horsepower, lots of torque, you know, but I was told, I don't know the configurations of this, and by no means am I a mechanic, but I was told the 2.7 liter actually doesn't fit in these configurations. So that is why they went with the 2.5 liter for some of you who have actually been asking that question. So I really do like how the cockpit is set up in this. Big 30-inch color touchscreen in this. It's all one piece. There's no real divide there, which is nice. You can have the navigation in front of you. But the other thing that's really cool too is it does have a very nice HUD, so the head-up display, which is in here, which I also really like. You know, for some of you, I know it might become distracting, but I really like it. It's easy to see, and I don't find once you've used it a little while, it really isn't distracting to me at all. As far as the rest of the layout of this, the armrest is in a good spot. We have wireless charging in here, big panel sunroof in this one as well. But that's really kind of what I'm feeling right now in terms of, you know, what I'm seeing and feeling in the drive of the Avenir. We're gonna flip over to the ST and I'll let you know what I think about that. And again, stay tuned. I'll also have, you know, walk around videos on these where you can, you know, look more into the, you know, the inside, the outside, the specifications of it. But we're gonna drive the ST next. Okay, so we are now transitioned from the Avenir. We are now in the ST version of the 2025 Enclave. And the reason why I have this up here is because there's a few things I want to show you as I'm driving. Because I will be honest with you, there really isn't a whole lot difference when it comes to these two vehicles in terms of the driving. It's the same motor, it's the same transmission. All that kind of stuff is the same. There's a little bit difference in terms of the suspension. This has maybe a slightly stiffer suspension, doesn't have the CDC, slightly stiffer suspension. Again, it's the sport touring trim, so it's made to be a bit more nimble. I mean, this really is like a rally car, right, Eddie? I mean, like, no, I mean, let's be honest, it's not, and that's the whole idea.
We're gonna go off-roading now, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do the off-road section just up here in a moment. But no, a couple things I want to show you. I was talking about some of the interior things. When you get the Preferred, which is the entry trim level, or this ST, which is your mid-trim level, or of course the Avenir, they are all going to have this, essentially this same setup in terms of the 30-inch screen. What's different in them will be, feature creature comforts, I guess is what I would say. One of the things that was different that I really like in the ST model is the race-inspired steering wheel, which is really, again, it makes me, feel like it's going to be a rally car type thing. But all joking aside, I really actually do like the flat bottom steering wheel. I think it looks kind of cool, and again, it just differs itself from the Avenir in terms of the interior bit. This one, of course, we're in another darker interior. Some different features, finishes on the inside of this. Of course, a little more sporty feel to them than you would have felt, in the Avenir itself. As you can see, we still actually, let's see if I can, I don't know if it can, I don't think Super Cruise is available here right now, but this does have the Super Cruise availability. Again, it's not standard on any of the trim levels, but it's available on all of the 3 trim levels. Interestingly though, and this is a little, again, minor complaint, this is something when you get spoiled for driving these vehicles and you're noticing how trim levels are done. When I mentioned earlier that there's simplistic trim levels, when you get the Super Cruise feature in the Avenir trim level, you get the rear vision camera mirror. Unfortunately, even with the Super Cruise in this vehicle, there is no rear vision camera mirror. It is what it is. A couple other things that are missing in this that you would have in the Avenir trim would be the ventilated seats. So we don't have ventilated seats. You do have heated seats. Of course, you have heated steering wheel. And then the other thing is speakers. So the Avenir has a 16 speaker Bose stereo system, and really this one has a 12 speaker system. The difference being the doors. So all 4 doors, if I'm not mistaken, in the Avenir are going to give you the speakers, where that's what's missing out of this vehicle. So again, a couple of differences there. We still have the floating center console. We still have the wireless charging in this. So it's not as though you're going down to the to the bottom of a trim level when you're in the ST. And again, it's still got that sporty exterior appeal, as you're going to see here. We've got the 20-inch wheels. So that is another difference when it comes to the ride. Aside from the suspension, we have 20-inch wheels on this, and obviously we have 22 standard on the Avenir. But what does that mean? Of course, obviously more and less sidewall. We have more sidewall on this, so it does give it a bit better ride, despite the fact it doesn't have the same level of suspension that you would have in the Avenir. Now, we also have noise dampening in this again as well, which is nice, and we have the acoustic glass, again, the front windshield and the driver passenger windows, not the rear, but again, it's the passengers, right? Who cares? All joking aside, we care, but it doesn't. It's the majority of the driving, of course, is done up here. Obviously, all the driving, I should say, sorry, is done up here. So it's the acoustic difference. I'm pretty tall. So I can drive. One of us is, well, we're both fairly tall. We might be able to make it work, but yeah. So anyway, so again, the ride is not far off. One thing to note, however, is when I was talking earlier in the video about the Avenir, about the turbo whistle, the turbo noise, it is basically, I would say, non-existent in this, Eddie, right? Yeah, so we've been driving this one now for a little bit at different speeds. We roll the windows down and we don't hear it. So we really think it was just, unfortunately, a one-off with one of the test vehicles.
Really pre-production. These were built early.
Yeah, again, so like, to be very clear, these are not fit and finished the way that it would be if it were on your dealership lot. So a lot goes into these, and it just wasn't what it was supposed to be. But it did throw us off. Initially, we're like, wow, this is a very loud turbo. It almost felt like we were in the 2.7 liter in the truck to an extent, which wasn't even quite that loud, and not. So pleasantly pleasantly can say that this is, you know, a lot different, it's quieter in terms of that aspect of it. Otherwise, of course, road noise and everything else was quiet in both of these vehicles, so a non-issue there. One of the things that we were playing with too, which is really cool, is this does have the Google Assistant in this, so you can just do something like this, like, hey Google, what's the temperature outside right now?
I'm offline, so I can't
Oh.
do that. In the meantime, you can get directions, make calls, and play radio.
Well, we're gonna have to try that later when we're in reception. We're in some pretty good drop zones out here in the middle of the mountains right now.
Hey Google, turn on driver's heated seat.
Got it. Turning on the seat heater.
When it's 89 degrees outside.
Exactly.
You're welcome, Jeff.
Hey Google, turn passenger temperature up to 79
No,
degrees.
Cancel.
So, needless to say, there's some fun things you can do in this vehicle with the Hey Google, and it actually is really responsive. I'm actually pretty impressed with how well it works. And again, if you didn't know this, I don't remember if I talked about this earlier in the video, but 8 years you get the effective Google integration for free. There's no subscription that you need to pay for. Much like the 3 years on the Super Cruise, it's 8 years on the technology on the screen. So, you know, I know you're Android Auto and Apple CarPlay users. I love it, but this is actually, I think, going to be the future. It's really cool because it integrates with the screen actually better than the Apple CarPlay Android Auto. In fact, the engineers are talking to us today about the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay being kind of like a square almost in here, as opposed to the utilization of the whole screen that you're going to get with the Google Assistant. So I think, you know, complaint-wise with this vehicle, there really isn't a lot. I will say, the design, exterior-wise, interior-wise, I think they did an excellent job. There's a couple things that I would say, and again, you all know me. My name is General Motors Jeff, legally, apparently, according to Eddie. And so I obviously have love for the GM brand, but I'm also honest in terms of the things that I like and don't like. I like the design of this vehicle from the exterior standpoint. I do take a little bit of issue with the whole line being the same looking. Again, looks are completely subjective. Looks, somebody could absolutely love, absolutely hate the polarizing. I don't dislike the looks of any of the 4 levels of vehicle that Buick makes, which, by the way, are the Encore GX, the Envista, the Encore GX, the Envision, and now, of course, this right here. By the way, the whole lineup has been refreshed in 15 months. So it's been a whole redesign, essentially, in these vehicles over the course of 15 months. But they've all taken this Wildcat design. They all have such a very similar look that there's not much, I know there's brand synchronicity between them, but there isn't much. Each one doesn't have as much unique flair as I would like to personally see. Again, that is a complaint for me, and again, looks are subjective. A couple other little things. One of the things I would have nitpicked, but they have them, thankfully, is they're all 4 doors in this vehicle, unlike my truck and unlike some of the smaller SUVs, and even some of the HD high money trucks actually has the keyless entry on all 4 doors, so thank you for that, Buick. But the one little thing that it doesn't have, and it's like a minor detail, but again, when you get used to something in a vehicle, on my side, the driver's side only, I have the automatic window, right? It does not have that A, and it does not work on Eddie's passenger side, so I literally have to roll up and down. First world problems, I absolutely know, but it is just one of those little things. When you're buying a $60,000, this one here, obviously just under $60,000 vehicle, that you should just have. Eddie made a great point, actually, and I think that, you know, some of these things were the little things they cut out during COVID and during chip shortages, right? And I just think it was easy to not go back to those in a way to, you know, cut a little cost. It's not, you know, taking away from the quality of the vehicle, but it's taking some of the little tiny creature comforts away that many of us enjoy. So, but as an overall, I've actually been really impressed with the drive of both of these trim levels. The preferred, I don't imagine there's going to be much different there, you know, either. The other thing is, we've played with some of the drive modes, a little harder to show right now, but the drive modes in this, we have sport mode, and of course in the all-wheel drive version, which we're driving right now, you have the off-road mode. You don't have, of course, off-road mode when it comes to the two-wheel drive, the front-wheel drive, but you do have, I believe it had snow mode, right, if I'm not mistaken.
Snow ice, yeah.
Snow and ice, and that will change things, and especially the sport mode, it definitely gives it a bit more sporty get up and go, along with that 8-speed transmission. So all that being said, you know, pleasantly surprised, I shouldn't say surprised, presently happy with what we see. Comparatively to an Acadia and Traverse, absolutely gives you a little quieter, a little better ride than say the Traverse. High-end Acadia, like a Denali, is going to be very close to this. So it really comes down to, you know, what style you prefer, maybe what dealer you deal with, whether it be, you know, you like your Buick dealer, you like your GMC, it might be the same dealer, obviously in some cases as well. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching this video. If you have any questions about this, anything that, you know, that you might be curious about from what I've experienced with the ride that maybe I didn't mention, but I do know about, comment below and I'll hopefully get those answered to you as soon as possible. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care.